The hustle, the scam, and the con. And if you're driving truck, you'll probably hit all three of those tomorrow. Been sitting around doing a lot of thinking about this video, and what I've been noticing lately is a lot of these old school games that people used to play, mostly drivers, they're back. Everybody thinks they're hustling, but what they're really doing is scamming. And it's got me kind of worried just because the scam is back. Now, don't get me wrong, scams at the truck stops, some companies scam their drivers. Don't really want to talk about that today. I want to talk about the driver. And that a lot of them don't know the difference between the hustle and the scam and the con. And I think that's an important thing to know. One thing you're going to find out here is there's not a lot of people that know the difference between the hustle and the scam. They get the two mixed up quite regularly. The hustle, that's honest. The scam is not. But the scam can run around and counterfeit itself acting like the hustle. It's important for you guys to know the difference, because the hustle is the long game. The hustle is the righteous game. The hustle is doing what you need to do, honestly, without trying to scam anybody. It's making your way, because I'll tell you right now, when the scam comes along, bad things start to happen. When I talk about the hustle, I'm not talking about screwing anybody out of anything. The hustle I'm talking about is doing your job the best you can and hustling it, but being prudent and smart enough in your business to know the game. The game is very real. You have to know how to navigate yourself in this business. Well, like the other day, I've told everybody, since E-Log came out, it's not really about miles anymore as it is about time. Time management is part of the game. It's part of the hustle. And you have to know how to do it. So the other day, there was for instance, there was a car on fire just south of Memphis. And traffic was stopped. Well, I seen the exit there, off to the side was at the 309 there south of Memphis. Back before they built the bypass, the 309 was the shortcut off 55 over to 78. And you could take that and it would avoid, downtown on 78 from 240, down to the Mississippi line. Nobody really liked going down 78, but it was always just, we all thought it was the faster way. But if it was rush hour and things were really bad or all that, you just sit there and run down that way. But I seen that coming up, car on fire, traffic stacked up, and I realized that we got a 7-mile backup. It's going to take an hour. So I get off on 309, I bust through in 25 minutes. It was a little bit busy, but that's part of the hustle. Did I scam anybody? No. I just knew a better way. Part of the hustle is knowing the better way, but knowing a way that's not going to get you into any trouble in the long run. That's part of the thing that the scammers forget. So you're like, well, how is a scammer going to do anything? Well, a scammer is the kind of guy that's going to figure out how to get as many people off on the 309 to clear up his way. Now, I'm not talking about you have to be this altruistic kind of weirdo, but he's going to try to con people into getting out of his way rather than figuring out a solution. I've been running into that a lot lately. You're running everybody, it seems like half the people I run into is the most important in the world, and they will screw you over in a minute, to get what they want. Now, the scam is not the hustle. That's not the hustle. If you're sitting there, that's more of a con. Now, here's the thing. The con is rarely ever a long game, especially in trucking. The con's always a short game. If you try to con people in this game, you're going to be found out real quick. And when you get found out real quick, eventually your workload's going to go like this. And then you're going to have to resort to scams because hustling is real work. So you're going to start resorting to scams to try to make your bills. And eventually people are going to figure you out. And even if you do clean up, nobody's going to believe it. It's a very important thing to remember. The con is a short game. A scam will get you in a lot of trouble too. Same as a con. So if you want to make it through like I did with the traffic jam, I knew a different way and I hustled. I got it over here. I moved it across. Is that a really significant hustle? Not really. I could have just stayed in line and be fine. But I made my way and I figured out a better way to do it. That's part of having hustle. So why am I talking about all this? Well, it's something that's been on my mind for quite some time. But I started reading a book from, I think it was put out in the 50s. That's something a book Dave Chappelle talked about too. It was by Iceberg Slim. And I got thinking about that, you know, and he starts talking about, you know, the con, the hustle, the scam, the long con, all of these games these people playing, and I started thinking, you know, I'm seeing that here. But what I'm seeing is guys playing these exact same games that I saw that were old 20 years ago. And then when I read, you know, that book, I realized these games are a whole lot older than that. You guys are hustling. You're not breaking new ground, guys. This is, you know, you gotta figure it out. So, the hustle. So the hustle is basically figuring out what you're capable of doing and working within those boundaries and excelling right to the limits of everything you can do. Efficiently. You're hustling. You're making that bank. You're doing it legit. And, you know, that's the hustle. So what do you do when you get to your limits? Well, you figure out a way to move beyond those limits, you know, unless it's perfectly set in stone, unless you're hitting the ceiling like a lot of us do. That's why I left my last job. Well, one of them. Okay, that's not the real reason I left my last job. But that's why I became an owner-operator, was because I had hit a ceiling. There was nowhere else to go. So I'd hit my limits there. So I figured out a way to move beyond them. That's the hustle. And I'm doing well. You know, so I sit there and I look at my numbers and I figure out how can I move beyond this while keeping this number here, my pay up here, my taxes down here, and this, that, and the other thing. Hey, I've been hustling. You know, a lot of guys don't think I work that hard. It's hard work. You know, hustling's hard work. Just because I don't move a lot of miles don't mean I haven't put a lot of thought into this and tried to do my best to maximize what I'm doing. You know, there is a game here, and we all play it, and every driver has their own game. So we're out here hustling. So let's talk about the scam. What I've known about a lot of these scams that truck drivers do is they think it's the hustle. They don't know the difference. And I can excuse a lot of it because they're just young and they haven't been beat up enough. So what a lot of these guys do is they just try to, they talk big. They scam themselves into work. They scam themselves into they scam themselves into situations. Faking it till you make it does not work. You know, it doesn't work out here because you've got to prove yourself every day. So if you're sitting there trying to scam, you know, loads, and you're sitting here trying to scam, you know, people into taking you sooner, I'll tell you right now, part of the, now, okay, I've done this. You know, I could say, you could call it a scam if you want. Like you want to get unloaded early. I come in, I act nice, I act gentle, I act stupid. And believe me, it's harder to act stupid than you realize. And a lot of times, acting with a little bit of naivete, I've gotten unloaded early. Is that hustle or a scam? It depends on which side of the aisle you're on. You know, did he get scammed? I didn't lie to him. See, that's the difference. I went in there, I was nice, I was gentle. But if you go in there and lie to these people and try to con them into unloading you early, you need to realize that these people have built-in BS detectors. They see this 100 times a week. So if you come in there with a little bit of deference, no lying, and don't try to con them, but just act a little stupid, I've gotten a lot done. And I've made a lot of money acting a little stupid. So now you're asking, where did the con man fit into this? Well, the con man kind of just filters through. Like, the con man is an opportunist. It's always a short-term thing. It's like a smash and grab robbery. He just kind of filters through the hustle, filters through the scam. He's a con man. Well, the con is short for confidence. He's a confidence man. You know, I have had truckers try to con me because they didn't want me there early, you know, or I might. Well, take for instance, if you know it's going to be hard and to get unloaded and it's going to be busy, and you go over there the night before, and the guy knows that they'll unload you the night before, but he doesn't have time to get there, he doesn't want you, he'll lie to you and tell you, no, they won't take anybody until blah, blah, blah. I've had that happen. And I just call them up regardless of what anybody says. Hey, I'm here. You guys unloading tonight, or do I need to come in the morning? Well, what time's your appointment? Well, my appointment's at, 4 a.m. You know what? We got some time here. We'll unload you. Or if it's a 24/7 place and you just show up and the con man doesn't want to wait, he'll lie to anybody to free up a little space for himself. I've had that happen a lot. I've had people, try to con me out of parking spots. I've had people, if there's a way to con you, I've had it done out here. It's the long con and all that really isn't as prevalent as it used to be anymore. It's just mostly just hustle and scamming, And like I said, there's nothing wrong with the hustle. Make a lot of money with the hustle. I've made a lot of money hustling. But that doesn't mean I did anything wrong or illegal. It means I put my best foot forward and I hustled. Like I said, the hustler and the scam is a completely different thing, And there are dishonest hustlers out there. Like you said, they're con artists. They will. So it's important to know the difference, Now, it sounds funny for me to be talking about all this stuff as a truck driver, talking about pimping and all that. And what got me thinking about it was a line in that book to where the Iceberg Slim just flat out said one of the best pieces of advice he got from Sweet Jones was, a pimp ain't nothing but a whore on the other end of the game. You need to remember that. Because y'all playing the same game, and that means you're in the same category. You're just on this end, and they're on this end. That's why you try to avoid those games. Let the little boys play those games. Let the kids play those games. If you're going to be out here and be a professional truck driver, we got bigger games to play. We got some real money to make. Because the ultimate end for a scammer and a con artist is always the same. It's always the same. The guys that sit there and scam and con and try to, work an angle, they're always working an angle. We know these people, and I'm not singling anybody out. They come in all ages, all races, all sizes. Everybody's working an angle. And their end is always predictable. Very, very rarely do one of these guys, get away with it. And in this business, you ain't getting away with it. You'll get away with it for a while, but what ends up happening is you build a name for yourself. People won't hire you. The work doesn't come. It's a series of lateral moves, and eventually you're on a downward slope towards bankruptcy. We've been having that problem with the load boards lately. Everybody's been getting so desperate that they're grabbing all the loads without even letting them marinate. They think they're trying to hustle. They're desperate for the work, So instead of finding good work, they're all racing towards the bottom. I've got a bunch of examples of this. So I'm going to cut the brokers a break, and I'm going to explain this to you real quick. So everybody wants to blame the brokers for conning, scamming, and cheating. If y'all been sitting here watching load boards for the last 20 years like I have, you're going to realize something. They're not doing anything different than they've always done. They've recognized the game is played. But they're putting the loads out just as cheap as they always have. The problem was, back in the day, drivers would be like, I'm not hauling it for that. Or they knew somebody at the business of where they were hauling, and they just make a phone call and get the load anyways. I know guys like that. One guy I was talking to not too long ago, in fact, said, you know, they tried to con him for like $1.30 a mile. They go from basically Cimarron, Kansas, all the way to California, and that was all in. He's like, no, he says, I know what that load pays. He's like, well, you know, this and that, and they tried to con him, and he said, well, you gonna pay me what they're actually paying? Well, this is what they're paying. He's like, you know what? He says, I know these people. In fact, I don't know if he said they were family or there was some kind of relative or something. He knew them personally. And he said, you know, if you're really going to be sticklers about it, he said, I'll just make a phone call and I'll just get the load anyways. You won't have it at all. Well, they weren't happy about that either. But the problem is that they weren't doing anything that they didn't normally do. They were just basically playing the game. Was it a con? Kinda. But it's not really a malicious one. They're just putting the load out there, and they have to start at a number. So the brokers put it out below. Well, what happens is, back in the day, guys would be like, we're not touching it for that. And you need to raise it up at least. Or you'd call the broker and say, I'll take that load, but you're going to pay me this. Brokers say no. He's like, well, I'm not going to haul it. And eventually, 2 or 3 days later, the broker would call you back. Or later that day, the broker would call you back. You know, usually you'd get, if the load was still cheap and you were looking at the load board, you would try to get it closer to deadline when it needed to be picked up, because that's when the price starts jumping. You never pick it up on the first day. You never pick it up on the second day. You wait till that thing is about 6 hours from needing to be picked up, and then you get your load and you get your money. Guys aren't doing that way. So are the brokers conning us? No. These guys are they're just screwing themselves. So there's no con there. There's not even any hustle there. It's just guys getting desperate and stupid. Y'all need to stop that, because, well, I've seen what these loads pay, and y'all are cutting your own throat. The problem is, you're willingly cutting your own throat. So, is it a hustle? No. Is it a scam? No. Is it a con? No. The numbers are right there. Something to be important and something to watch for. So why am I talking about this? It's kind of a little off topic, I guess. Is that if you're going to make it in this game, and this next year is going to be real rough, I'm not going to lie, this year's going to be real rough. It's already showing signs of a market correction here soon, and, you know, freight's starting to slow down. Last year was an anomaly. It was. I made more money than I ever did. You know, the last 2 years I've made more money during COVID than I ever did. It's starting to settle back down again. And it's going to correct itself again. So you're going to start seeing a lot of guys getting desperate here soon and try to pull some real shady stuff. Like, I was thinking about the guy that stole my fuel one night. What did that get him? A little bit down the road? Did he save any money? No. Thinks he did. You know, but eventually, you know, he's going to be accountable for it. He's still got to pay road tax and all that. He's still got to figure out he's screwing himself out of the deductions at the end of the year. And even if he's not paying his taxes, eventually it'll catch up with him. It will. That's why I said con men don't last. Thieves don't last. The only people that last are the true hustlers, the honest ones, who are out here doing what they got to do, you know, not minding with this BS over here or this BS over here. They're out doing their thing to the best of their abilities and figuring out where the limit is, and once they hit there, how they can go further. It's kind of a weird video, isn't it? But it's just something that I've been thinking about a lot, because I'm starting to see a lot of these old games pop up. I'm starting to see a lot of this, you know, a lot of these young bucks think that they're reinventing the game. They're not reinventing the game. When you're 25, you're not even playing it well. You're not even an amateur at this point. You're a beginner. That's why I've always stressed that mentorship in this industry is so important. Not mentorship on how to scam. Mentorship on how to do the job, how to hustle. Knowing how proper time management. Putting everything forward and doing your job to the best you can in order to make that dollar. Because if you make that dollar honest, that dollar ain't going anywhere. If you make that dollar and you didn't earn it, that dollar's gone before you get it. Think of every hustler you ever met. Think of every con man you ever met. Then think about that old man on your block that's been hustling his whole life, never screwed anybody over, done his thing, kept to himself. What's he doing now? He's enjoying his retirement. That's something you always got to think about. Kind of a, like I said, kind of a off, strange video. I didn't talk about any specific cons. I didn't talk about any specific hustles or anything like that. That's for you guys to figure out. Do your job honestly. Don't con anybody. Don't cheat anybody. Don't lie. Don't try to make this game into something that it's not meant to be. Hustling is a game, that's for sure. But if you do your hustle right and proper, you're going to go a long ways here. And it's going to be hard work. People say work smarter, not harder. You seem to forget the smarter you are, the harder you still have to work. Because your game needs to progress. You need to keep moving to that next level. So, anyways, that's all I got. So I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, man. You guys stay safe out there, and we'll see you next video.